with you to see you all. And one way of expressing that joy is through song. And you see here our topic for today that is a musical exploration of unity. So that was the topic that I came up with a couple of months ago, and it's been wonderful to figure out what that means and how to do that. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity because actually the process of preparation was really amazing for me. So it was very fulfilling and rewarding, and I hope to convey at least part of that as much as I can to you. So let's begin with some music. We'll start with the familiar. And the familiar, what I mean by the familiar is a song that I think everybody knows, everybody should know. So here we go. So this is one expression of unity, of how good it is to be together. And yeah, we can't take it for granted. And fortunately, we have this technology, we're not in person. We're getting together in Zoom is also good. It's great. It's really lovely to see you all, each and every one of you. So this comes from Tehillim, from the Psalms. We had a whole session on the Psalms. This is from Tehillim, Perek Kuf Lamed Gimel, which is 133, chapter 133, the very first verse. So, and it was made famous by many different melodies. I just want to share with you one little story about this particular psalm, and this verse is in gender masculine. It's in masculine gender, right? Because it talks about achim, brothers. Oh, here is what's good and what's pleasant, to be amongst, to sit with brothers together. Yachad is together. We'll talk a lot more about that last word here. Yachad is the key word here, right? Together. And it's good to be together. But this word achim is brothers. So once I was at a Hoshana Rabbah celebration in New York, and there was Rabbi Arthur Waskow there, and Pete Seeger was there, the famous folk musician. And Arthur Waskow, he suggested that we use the word kulanu gam yachad as a what does it mean here? How good and how pleasant it is to be all of us together. It's a gender neutral form. So if you'd like, I invite you to use the gender neutral or the more inclusive kulanu, all of us, rather than achim, or if you want achim, go ahead, but we're not, well, in some ways we're all brothers and sisters, but I leave it to you. So this is a warm up to get us into the mood here of this topic. And the feeling of this topic. We'll start with the most famous melody, and then the second most famous melody will come after it. We'll start slow. Do I have to turn up my microphone? I think I might. Let me just give me 1 second to check my audio settings. No, I'm good. You can hear me, right? הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת כולנו גם יחד. It's so good. En anglais it goes like this. Here is what's good and what's pleasant, to sit amongst brothers and sisters. Qui le bon, de s'asseoir tous ensemble. And it's so great because I see how, like, so many people are shuffling or moving back and forth, left and right, like I am. It's so nice. That's what this song does. I imagine, in the camps, they all put their arms around each other and they sway back and forth. And then the faster version, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת כולנו גם יחד. Bravo, bravo everybody. I see, I imagine what you sound like if we were in person. It'd be easier for me to hear your voices. That's one of the deficiencies of Zoom, which I won't talk about a lot, is that for harmony it's not so good. And thank you for all of the songs. Yeah, I invite you to join me, even though I can only imagine what you sound like. And yeah, swaying is good, and clapping, as I saw in the fast part, that was beautiful. Great.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Oh, my pleasure. That was just the warm up. So I think we're warmed up.
It was give us a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, Gladys was very insistent that I include lots of music. So that was part of what informed my decision of what to include in this presentation. What I'd like to do is ask the question: yeah, when is it that you felt the sense of yachad, right? The sense of yachad means togetherness, unity. You see here two people coming together. Yachad, of course, comes from the word echad, right? One. How do you say in Hebrew? One is echad, the same root as yachad. It has the same sound. And that has informed other words in Hebrew, such as achdut, right? Achdut means unity, togetherness. So the question is, that I'd like to ask us is, when have we felt a sense of unity? Because one of the reasons why I chose this topic is that it seems to me, and this has long been the case, that we could always use more unity. And there's a lot of disunity and disharmony amongst people. And when I talk about unity and yachad, here, as you see in the picture, we're talking about in the horizontal way, which is unity with other people. However, we can also extend that to other beings, to animals, to plants, feeling a sense of oneness and a connection, an interconnection and interbeing. And I'd like to share with you that probably, as I ask us this question of when do we feel most closely connected to other beings, I can say that one of the times that I've felt most closely connected to others, or one tool that helps me feel that, is quietness, is tranquility. When I can be quiet, outside of the noise of my mind and of what's going around me, then I can feel closer. So thought we would just do one little exercise here, and I want to take a moment here, because often when I'm speaking, I have some of you on my screen, but I don't have everybody on my screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my screen up to the maximum. Ooh, and I see 12 people here on the screen on the video, so just be warned, we're going to be looking at one another and taking a moment just to appreciate, and by looking at one another quietly, we can perhaps cultivate a sense of unity, togetherness, a sense of yachad. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to stop talking. It's very difficult for Jews, especially rabbis, to be quiet. And although I learned in Yiddish, there's a wonderful word. It's called zu schweigen. It means to be quiet together. To be quiet together, which is very difficult. So in just a moment, I'll try to be quiet together. let's schweig together, which means to be quiet together, and just maybe look around to see all the wonderful people who are here, some of which we haven't seen in a while.
Before we be quiet, I would like to welcome Maurice Perez, our dance instructor for next week. Welcome, Maurice.
Bienvenue. Okay. So, looking around. So let's take a moment to look around. Who is in our room with us? Lovely. So nice to see you all and to be with you all and to schweig together, to schweig, I write it here. I know not so many Yiddish speakers here, but zu schweig is how you say it in Yiddish. And this also gives me an opportunity to do a little practice that I've been wanting to do. Actually, it's done in many communities, is to pick a card before studying together or having a class together. And I want to share with you as our next piece, this is also like an introductory piece before we go deeper into our topic of the musical exploration of unity, is that during the pandemic, this was one of the, I would say, the two projects that I'm most happy with, I'm most proud of. I think we mentioned last time I completed my MA in Jewish Studies after 25 years. That was one of my big accomplishments. And the other one was this was a fun creative project, which was I created online. Well, actually, I have both Tehillim, Psalms, and then I created also Hebrew angel cards. And so I'd like to, they're kind of, quote, random, and it could be a nice midah, a nice quality to bring into the session today. So let me see if I can easily do that here. So I'm going to stop the screen share here. And then I'm going to share another screen, which will enable us to pick a card, a Hebrew card, to set the theme for us today, which I've been finding can be a nice thing to do. So, okay, just give me one moment here. And I have to share the new screen.
Rabbi, we send this to them. They should look at it. Sandra put it together with the ladies' bat mitzvah, so everybody can see that.
Yeah, that's the idea. Well,
it's beautiful. And you have in your email.
Yeah, thank you, Gladys. Yeah, the part of my reason for sharing this is that you can come to this anytime. And you see here, I picked some of my favorite pieces of Tehillim, and you can click there, which we're not going to do today. We already started with Tehillim, with Hinem Matov. However, there's also Hebrew angel card, which is nice to pick, let's say, before Shabbat. You can pick twice. And I want to pick one for today. And actually, a lot of my friends do this before they teach their classes, particularly like yoga classes and these kinds of things. They pick not a Hebrew angel card, but they pick an English one. And actually, yeah, so I won't go into the whole background of it. Let's just pick a card. So you click there, and then you see this animation. And then you can just click on the circle, click on the orb below for a Hebrew angel card, and hopefully we'll pick a good one that will help set the tone, the mood for today. Let's do that. I just clicked, and it works. Whoa, bravo, fantastic. This is a great one. So the Hebrew word here, I think everyone might understand this Hebrew word, spontaneut. Spontaneut, I think it comes from the English, spontaneity, la spontaneité, which is great. I love that, and I've already incorporated that spontaneut into today, because some of already what we've done is spontaneous. And often I find that makes a wonderful class, is to incorporate spontaneity into the session. Great. Very good. Now I'll go back to, so if you like this idea, if you like this practice, these Hebrew cards, you can, actually I'll put the link in. I think it was sent out, and you can also get it via the link I just put in the chat. And you can come anytime. You can use either of the pasuk. The pasuk ones, the verses from Tehillim also have pictures. here the angel cards are all the same picture. So let's go back to the.
You have the link for this Pasuk link. I
Yeah,
sent the email with ladies bat mitzvah.
yeah. The pasuk link might only be for the Psalms for Tehillim. So if you want the angel card, right, the angelic quality card, if you will, then you have to go to the link I just sent. Or there's a few different links, but the simplest one is the one I just sent. So you can use
Sandra
that.
did a beautiful job to put everything together with ladies bat mitzvah, and I sent it to you with the posters.
Nice.
So you will enjoy looking at it, please, when you have a chance. Sandra did all the posters and all the ladies bat mitzvah and put pasuk, quick pasuk of Rabbi Orenstein together with it. So it is really educational and enjoyable. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you for the endorsements and the help. It's always great. I always feel so supported with everyone here. And so I think you can see my screen now where it says dear. Do you see that? Yeah, nod your head. Yeah, great. Wonderful. So here's where our journey now begins in earnest. And what this is a letter. We're starting with a letter that was written to someone by the name of Dr. Albert Einstein, and the famous physicist, Nobel Prize winner. And this was a letter written in, I think it was 1947, when Albert Einstein was 70 years old. He was living in Princeton, New Jersey, and an ordained rabbi, Rabbi Usmicha, wrote to Albert Einstein, fascinatingly, and asked one of the most difficult questions. The rabbi said that he tried in vain to comfort his 19-year-old daughter when his daughter lost her sister, right? Her sister died, his daughter, right? And so he has a 19-year-old daughter, and he was trying to comfort his 19-year-old daughter over the death of her sister, a sinless, in his words as he wrote, a sinless, beautiful 16-year-old child. So this is the question that the rabbi asked Albert Einstein, what can I do? So, very difficult question. How do we deal with the loss of our loved ones? It's one of the most difficult questions that is asked. The rabbis call it tzaddik v'ralo, right? That's someone who's saintly and something bad happens to him or to her. And really, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses struggled with this question, it says in the Talmud, and many, many people struggled with this. So the rabbi sought an answer, interestingly, from the greatest scientist, or the great scientist, Albert Einstein. What did Albert Einstein respond to the rabbi? He wrote the following. Gigi, are you there? You want to read? It might be, you have to unmute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. You know what this makes me think of, Rabbi Orenstein?
Please tell me. I was wondering.
God is one, the whole. It's all of us together, all energy, all creatures, every aspect of the universe. And in
Beautiful.
a way, that's what he's saying. You have to embrace it all. You're part of it all.
So beautiful, Gigi. I think I can stop my presentation now. And we can all just sing. Actually, so let's actually after that, yeah, I'm going back after that beautiful summary. So here's let's. So I'm going back. I'm being a little spontaneous because hearing you say that makes me want to sing. And this is just a one-word song that I was taught by really a wonderful rabbi. And it might be a little bit unusual. You might know, but you might have heard of him, Rabbi Avi Weiss, who is he started Chovevei Torah, a yeshiva, an important yeshiva in New York City, where Rabbi Adam Shire in Montreal studied, and others. And Rabbi Avi Weiss, I mean, his mission, I think he was inspired by Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. In our days, it might not be so, so it may be a little bit controversial, but anyway, Rabbi Avi Weiss, one of his missions in life was to hug as many Jews as possible, or many people as possible, not only Jews, and to have this, give this sense of yachad. And he taught me this version of a Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach song. It's just one word, and it means to be together, to be one. It's very easy. It goes like this. Yachad, 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 yachad. Nay, 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 na, 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 nay, 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 nay. Yachad, 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 yachad. Lay, 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 lay. Yachad, so.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
No problem. It's like we're turning this lesson into kind of like a musical here, it seems. So, all right. So that was Albert Einstein, and so yeah, the oneness of all existence and the oneness of it all. And what was interesting to me was what Albert Einstein wrote is very similar to what a great rabbi who had a very big impact on me also wrote, which I'll show you in the next slide. I just wanted to also just to zero in for 1 second here. Also, it's something that caught my attention, in addition to what Gigi said here in this statement by Albert Einstein, and that he talks about here is is being separate. What prevents us from feeling oneness is a sense of feeling separate, of being disconnected. And so that's something, it seems, that he says is kind of an optical delusion instead of optical illusion. It's like, he's saying it's kind of like a fake sense of separate. We're all connected, but we sometimes feel or think as if we're disconnected, but we're all interconnected all the time. Right? Despite how we feel and think, we're just all so deeply connected. And that feeling of being separate, that thinking of that we're separate, it creates a kind of prison. He uses a strong word. And it also makes us feel like we're only connected maybe to one person, maybe to two people, but really we're connected to the entire universe, the entire cosmos, to all living creatures, all of nature, we're connected with. So this was really interesting and powerful quote, and to begin with, in my view, and it reminded me of another great rabbi. He was the chief rabbi of At that time, it was Palestine. It wasn't Israel yet. He lived from 1865 to 1935. He was the chief Ashkenazi rabbi of Palestine in the British Mandate. And he's a great, great genius and writer and poet. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but his name, so I'll share with you, his name was Rav Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Cook, who wrote something I feel very close, and many of his poems were similar to what Einstein also wrote, which is interesting to me because it's the convergence, if you will, the coming together, the unity of the greatest scientific mind with really one of the greatest rabbinic minds saying very similar things. So let me pick on Albert. How about you? Are you ready to read for us, Albert?
Okay, I'll try.
Just before that, I would like to welcome Sami Surani and Leonie and Linda Fatal. Thank you all for joining us.
And thank you, Gladys, by welcoming.
Rabbi, beautiful things we are learning today.
Thank you, Gladys, by welcoming everybody. You're helping to maintain the sense of unity, of cohesion, and achdut. So thank you very much. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that thank you. So Albert, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready. I don't know what to read. I don't see anything to read.
You don't see anything to read? Really?
No. Maybe I should be doing something else.
Hang on. You don't see?
Maybe a screen share.
It's shared, Albert.
Oh, yeah.
I think you just need to swap the shared screen with the video.
Yeah. Okay. It starts with the heart must be filled. That's what's
it. Perfect. Okay. Great.
So here it says, the heart must be filled with love for all. The love of all creation comes first. Then comes the love for all humankind. And then follows the love for Israel, in which all other loves are included. It is the destiny of Israel to serve toward the perfection of all things. All these loves are to be expressed in practical action by pursuing the welfare of those we are bidden to love and to seek their advancement. And that's by Rabbi Avraham HaKohen Cook from Midot Haraya, the Moral Principles.
Thank you, Albert. So here he's writing the essence of Judaism, which I don't know if we, necessarily would have come to the same conclusion on our own. We might have other conceptions and ideas of what Judaism is all about, let's say. What he's saying that it's all about is basically loving everyone, everything, the entire universe, all creation. That's the essence of what it's all about. And
I think, but when he talks about Israel here, he means Am Israel, right?
Interesting.
The people of Israel.
So he also had a great love of the
land.
The land. That was so. Yeah, just a little bit of background about him. Yeah, he was Hasidic, so he had a love of other Jewish people. One of his greatest contributions was his love of the land of Israel. So he added that there's love of God, there's love of Israel, and there's love of land. However, he talks about all creation, not just Israel. And so, it's very expansive in his view. Although it's interesting that he does mention Israel, and kind of Israel is like an all-inclusive thing, because the idea of Israel is to serve all creation, right? So it's he makes it kind of hierarchical. However, but first he starts with for all. That's where he begins. So it's an interesting statement. And
Rabbi Orenstein,
yeah.
I believe that you mentioned to the women's learning group at one time, or maybe it was a sisterhood lecture, I don't remember, that Rabbi Cook, no, it was a lunchtime thing. Rabbi Cook was the Orthodox rabbi who changed the outlook of Orthodox of the Orthodox rabbinate in terms of religious Jews accepting Israel. They should go to Israel, even because others said, no, you have to wait for the Messiah to come. But I believe he's the one that said, no, come now. I think so. Am I right?
You're giving me a lot of nachas, Gigi. Right? You're giving, I feel I'm impressed, and it makes me feel good that you remember that. And absolutely, that Rav Kook was the father of modern religious Zionism.
Zionism.
Yeah, religious Zionism. That is to say that people like Herzl and so on, they were the founders of Zionism, but they didn't have, let's say, like a classical religious background and so on and outlook. So what he did, which was beautiful, and why he was so influential, was not only he brought in a religious perspective, he also embraced the so-called secular Zionists. He felt like people like Herzl and others and his followers were completely harmonious with the Jewish tradition and should be embraced. Where you see religious people sometimes looking down and judging, quote, non-religious people, he did the opposite. He just was so grateful and loved them. Just like it says here, he embraced them. And so that was part of his greatness. And he has people who have followed in his footsteps, as it were. However, we're talking at an interesting time. So just to put it in the current political context of the election in Israel yesterday. So Rav Kook, some of his followers loved the land of Israel so much that after the 6-day war, they got very connected and very attached to Yehuda and Shamron, and they felt like they didn't want to give it up, and they still don't. So the so-called, what's sometimes called the settler movement and so on, was also inspired to a large part by Rav Kook's son, whose name was Tzvi Yehuda Kook. And so kind of like sometimes called right-wing kind of nationalism in Israel owes a lot to particularly the son of Rav Kook, and also because of Rav Kook's great love for the land. But he has
Rabbi, if I may, yesterday's elections in Israel indicated that the head of the Zionist party, the religious Zionist party, Bezalel Smotrich, won 14 seats in the Knesset, which is amazing. It shows how progressive this movement is.
Thank you, Albert. And so I don't want to go too much into politics because politics is something that can divide us often. And today, actually sometimes they talk about unity government, Achdut, and they have to build a coalition in Israel. They have to kind of build a kind of unity. So I do want to focus on Achdut and the unity that sometimes gets lost because there's important also ideas and different approaches to various issues and so on. However, my contention and what I'd like to bring to the forefront is that underlying this disunity and disharmony is hopefully we can find a deep unity and connectiveness. Like, what was the pinnacle, what was the peak experience of the Jewish people in all history? What was our highest, greatest moment as Jews, or maybe one of them? I won't put you on the spot, but I would say, let's say from a religious Jewish perspective, what was the peak apotheosis, if you will, that was none other than what? When did we experience as a people the divine? Okay, I'll give it to you, since nobody's stepping forward. Was none other than Matan Torah, right? The giving of the uttering of the giving of the Torah, right? The uttering of the 10 speakings, if you will, the 10 commandments. That was the peak experience of the Jewish people, according to at least the Torah text, and as taught by Rashi, right? Because this is a famous teaching. It says here that why did we deserve the Torah, or why did we receive the Torah at that time, or what enabled us, what was a necessary precondition, if you will, says that at Har Sinai, right, that's how the rabbis, at the mountain, Vayichan Sham Yisrael, it says Vayichan, they camped there, right, the last part of the verse, Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, Mount Sinai, but encamped in the singular, right, as Rashi says, because it says Vayichan and not, right, other places it says Vayachanu, right, in the plural they encamped there, but in Mount Sinai it says Vayichan, they encamped there as one person. So Rashi explains, they camped there ke'ish echad belev echad. They shared one heart. They camped there like one person with one heart. The entire people had this unitive experience. They felt so close with one another. And that's what Rashi says. And there Israel encamped as one person, gender neutral, as one person with one, well here it's translated as mind, which is interesting because the word lev can be understood as heart or it can be mind. So it's like one consciousness, if you will, one mind or one heart. In the biblical period, the word lev could mean either heart or mind, or maybe better, heart-mind, heart-mind, as in many of the ancient civilizations, that, like in Greek and so on, they had a similar word for heart-mind. That's another story. So Rashi here is quoting the Midrash and Mechilta. Another way of saying this is the importance of feeling unity and oneness. Enabled the Sinai experience, the peak revelation moment, the receiving of the Torah, and just an important, I would say this is an important reminder and a charge for us to feel this sense of unity, of oneness. Has anybody, let's see, I think that this is coming up. One more teaching, and then we'll pause for a question and some thoughts and sharing. So, let's see. I'm just looking at the time. Okay, yeah, one more teaching. So this is a teaching from Exodus chapter 19. Another teaching about oneness, which comes back to what Gigi said, and Rav Kook. Well, Einstein more. Einstein more is the teaching, one of the sources in Deuteronomy, in Devarim, says, Ein od milvado, which some rabbis in the 20th century and 21st century feel is a core teaching of the Torah. So one could argue, what does this mean? Ein od milvado, there is nothing but him. Literally, Ein od milvado. I should write that in the chat here. So means literally, there is nothing but him with a capital H. There's nothing but God. Now, some would argue that in the original context, what this means, there is no God but the God of Israel. Let's say in the biblical original sense of the word. However, in the 20th and the 21st century, it's understood more as what Gigi is saying. There's nothing but God. It's all God. There's the universe as it is God. Beingness, what is right now is God. It's all God. That's what's sometimes called in fancy language a non-dual approach to God. It's all God. What Gigi said. Ein od milvado, there's nothing but God. And this might be a good place to pause for a moment and to see if there's any questions or concerns or comments before we have some more music and go on to some more exploration of this theme. Yes, I see Sandra, I see your hand.
Yeah, I want to say that I was going to say Matan Torah when we were all receiving, the technology is weird. I'm between my screen at work and my cell phone. That's exactly why Moses in Deuteronomy says once every 7 years, get together and do a hachel, everybody together, so that this sense of the meeting at Sinai will be renewed.
I love that. That is so beautiful. Let me unpack what Sandra just said, which is great, because this year is the year of Hakel, and I don't think everybody knows that. Let me just explain what that means. And actually, it really is, in so many ways, Hakel. Hakel is there's a period of time, and let me see if I can just grab that for you.
Every 7 years.
Yeah, I'm just trying to show you here a picture.
It's like the Shemitah, but for the people, the heads, not the land.
Exactly. I'm going to share my screen here with you. And you see historically, here, oops, this was the Hakel. This is an artist's rendition of Hakel ceremony, where you have here, this is Ezra. He was the one who started Torah reading. But yeah, so here at the end of the Shemitah, at the end of the 7th year, which is this year, people would gather in Jerusalem to hear the Torah read. So it was an opportunity for unity, for gathering, for feeling achdut and togetherness. And it happens to be this year. So I know in many congregations, in many communities around the world, they're focusing on this mitzvah, which is a good mitzvah to focus on, especially post-pandemic, getting together and the importance of getting together once again. It's actually very good timing. So that's called Hakel, every 7 years, based on Deuteronomy 31. Any other questions or comments before we continue our musical exploration?
I would like to welcome Andre Hayim, Gil Azlan, Nina Rabbi, Andre Hayim, Carmen Corin, all welcome. Thank you for joining us. And it's a great, thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. Bruchim habayim, bruchot habaot. Welcome. And so let's continue. I feel like I might want to be spontaneous and jump to another song. So I'm going to just actually go there now, and then and then I have a question for us all. So let me share with you a new. Let me pick which song. Okay, I have a bunch here prepared, just as a little break. Okay, I'll do this one. So this is a song that I learned just this year, and might be a good introduction to my question. So I'll share the screen with you. This is by a new song by a Jewish musician in Philadelphia. And her name is, there you see, Ali Halpert. And this is the first half of the song. And I learned it from my friend Alice Frank. And I think this is a good introduction to the question that I'm going to ask in just a moment. It goes like this. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. All right, so this leads me into my question now. Now that hopefully we're loosened up, let me backtrack here and ask the question. Yeah, so remember Einstein was talking about we get trapped in our prisons of separate individual egos and feeling disconnected from one another. So the question I want to ask is, what keeps us from feeling oneness? What gets in the way from us feeling kinship with all life, to borrow the term from a famous book, that kinship with all life? What keeps us from widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty? So I don't know if you have any thoughts of that. Now that we see that both science, like the pinnacle of science, the scientific mind, Einstein is saying it's so important to cultivate a sense of oneness, achdut, interconnectedness, and the same thing Rav Kook similarly to cultivate a sense of connection with all creation.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
can I say something?
please.
So I'm thinking of the title of this book I read in high school about Van Gogh. It was called Lust for Life. So I think what dims that in our consciousness and kind of kills it is lust for power, lust for physical things, lust for money, lust for fame. And this all creates a separation and puts a veil between us. And it's an illusion, because all that, it fritters away. But the only thing that lives is life. So if we lust for life, we stay alive.
What a beautiful answer, Sandra. That makes me want to sing. What makes me want to sing? Beautiful. That, yeah.
I have something also to add, if I may.
Please.
I think that mainly we're self-centered individuals. We really do not care. We don't see the big picture. We don't care so much about the big picture. It's just our very, very own little surroundings. And I think once we start seeing us as being a tiny, tiny little piece of the universe, then we widen our minds, and we widen our love for creation, our love for human beings.
Nice. You're saying, I'm hearing in your own words what Einstein was saying. We get trapped in ourselves and our small selves rather than in our bigger self, which our bigger self, he was saying, is the entire universe. We're made out of the stuff of stars, to use stardust, right? Like the Carl Sagan would say.
Can I add?
Please.
Okay, so I think what keeps us from feeling oneness, or many people from feeling oneness, is that they haven't resolved the problems of their youth, of their childhood. And by not resolving those problems become expressed through a lust for power or for money or whatever it is. It's at the exclusion of loving, because you get so focused on something, and really it stems from something that has been unresolved. I think so. So ultimately, I think it's maturity. If we can mature, if we can face ourselves and see what's lacking and what problems we have. I mean, it sounds so easy, but it isn't, of course. And then slowly mature. And I remember reading a science fiction story, I don't know, by Ray Bradbury or somebody, I don't remember who. And basically he showed that in the short story, which was brilliant and very, very multi-leveled, that there's darkness in the world because those that seem so respectable and revered and are in power and all that, they're really suffering from childhood problems. And they are the most immature, and they are the ones that cause the problems. Anyway, I also wanted to say that I read that book, Lust for Life, about Van Gogh. I read it when I was, I don't know, 25 or 28 or something. Very beautiful. I think they made a movie out of it too. And I came across it because I was working with a whole lot of very religious Christian adolescents, wonderful, wonderful children who were brought up to feel an acceptance of everything. They realized much as it was all through a wrongful God, a wrongful understanding of God. But at least what came out of it, of all of this, is that there was a definition that God is love, and they cultivated that. And through them, I came across this book, Lust for Life. Anyway, that's it.
Beautiful, thank you. We got two.
Sorry, and Gigi,
Yeah.
what really strikes me when I hear this is, those people who saved Jews during the Holocaust and really put themselves in the danger. Those are the ones who felt the oneness of life and didn't want to turn their head away, because any life, even if it wasn't part of their, Christ tradition, or we killed their savior, whatever, but they felt that life is too important and you cannot let it be destroyed this way.
Yeah. The whole thing about saving during the Holocaust is actually so much more complicated than we understand, because people had to consider, many of them had to consider not just themselves, but their parents or their spouses, their children. So that would often be would be killed as a consequence to their helping. So it's not just black and white, but I do understand what you're saying, that those that did help did it because they understood what was really, really important. But it sounds so simple, what's really important. But most of us, I think, sort of have to get through the muddy waters to see the clean water. It takes time. Not everybody's brought up in such a way that they see what the most important thing is in life. So
I wish the world would kind of like come out of their little self-prison and support the Persian youth who are dying, and they want freedom, they want life.
Who?
The world. I think all these good people who knock on doors of consulates to cut ties and to do things to isolate the mullah regime, I think that is also in a way feeling, in every way, feeling that all of life is connected. I mean, don't look for whom the bell tolls. If somebody is suffering across the world, it's going to affect you because you're a human.
Yeah. The irony is that the culture that is dominant now, that is prevailing now, and is forcing people through their employment, through social connections, whatever, to think or at least to act a certain way, is based on identity politics, which means that you disassociate yourself from the others, and you find sort of evil in the other, but you are good. There's virtue, being virtuous because you think a certain way, as opposed to being open and accepting and loving. No, so we're moving in the wrong direction, but I hope the pendulum has gone as far as it can go and it's going to go back. I don't know.
Mashiach.
Thank you. Thank you, Gigi and Sandra, and a lot of wisdom in what you're saying, and it's funny. It's like it really comes together with also a story that I was and a song that I wanted to share, which is about after the Holocaust, there were people who were trying to find out which of the kids were Jewish in these monasteries, right? Because a lot of the or some, it should have been more, but there were some Jewish children who were taken into the monasteries, and they were trying to find out which of these kids were Jewish or non-Jewish to try to to get them out after the war. And so what did they do in order to find out which of the children were Jewish? One of the things that they did was they recited the Shema Yisrael, right? And if the child would recognize the Shema, like would recognize it or mouth it or sometimes join in, then they knew that the child was Jewish, and then they would take the child out of the monastery and give the child a Jewish education in some cases and so on, to try to restore them to their heritage. And so how does this connect to what we've been discussing? In many, many ways. I mean, for one, this is a statement of the unity, right? Of divine unity, of monotheism sometimes it's called. And really we could have an entire lesson just trying to understand what is said in these words. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. We say it so often. However, I'm happy to tell you that just this year, in my 49th year, I understood what this means, this verse from Deuteronomy, from Sefer Devarim, what it means more deeply, and to experience it more deeply. And it has to do with some of what we're talking today, of experiencing like the unity and the oneness of all existence. I'm going to come back to this in just a second, if you can bear with me for one moment, because this is connected to, now that we've spoken about just some of the things that can get us from feeling disconnected from others, from the universe. And this was just a partial list that Sandra and Gigi, a great list, things from our past, sense of lust or desire for whatever it is. There's so many things that we can add. A lot of people these days talk about, actually a friend of mine, I just listening to Rabbi David Ingber, just give a beautiful teaching. Let me share this with you. I'll back up and share. Rabbi Elie Wiesel once said that the Jewish mind has destroyed the Jewish heart. It's a very strong statement. The Jewish mind has destroyed the Jewish heart. What did he mean by that? Well, I think what he meant by that was something that my friend Rabbi David Ingber recently said. Rabbi David Ingber is a successful and a wonderful rabbi in New York City. And he was explaining, why is it that we bow down sometimes in our prayers, right? In Balchu, right, we bow down. In the Amidah, the Shmoneh Esrei, right, we bow down. There's a few times. So he was sharing this teaching that I heard. He says the reason, the kavanah, the intention why he bows down, or what he's thinking about when he's bowing down, in addition to all the other explanations, there's many explanations why we bow. But he's saying, he spends a lot of time as a rabbi thinking and talking and reflecting, but what happens when you bow down is you lower your head towards your heart, reminding you that the head is not necessarily should be the ultimate servant. The importance is also the heart, right? To bring your head down to your heart, if you will. Like some people say, that's why we wear tefillin, to connect the head and the heart. And so one of the things that can disconnect us from other people, and just echoing Gigi and Sandra, is our heads get in the way we think, we identify, we think we're like this and they're like this and so on, or we want this and want this, rather than just kind of resting in our heart and operating from a different locus, from the space, from our heart space, rather than from a mind space. And we can start thinking about, oh, this person, he did this and that, and just rather than just dropping it, like loosen baby, just loosen who we think we are, loosen our minds, and just kind of return to our heart. And which leads me to, we're coming back to the Shema in just a second. Really, this question is there something that we can do to cultivate a sense of oneness? And what I'm suggesting here, and I'm not the only one to suggest it, there are practices that some of our Jewish practices, and there are other practices that we can do, generic or vanilla practices we can do, can help to cultivate this sense of oneness that Einstein and Rav Kook are talking about. And so I'll share with you one teaching here that comes from a rabbi, Hasidic rabbi. You see, I'm quoting a lot of Hasidic rabbis. This is Rabbi Aaron of Staroselya, who's from the Chabad, Lubavitch. He was a follower of the founder of Chabad. And he wrote, "Without feeling, the thought of unity is just imagination." So it's what he's saying is not just about knowing that all is one. It's how can we feel it in our bodies? How can we know it? How can we, and I'm reminded of Rabbi Shalom Brat, who's Zichrono Livracha, passed away, who spoke in the Spanish many times. He said, it's very easy to feel oneness with all creation sometimes, with people, let's say even in Iran, the young people. Sometimes that's very easy, but with my wife or my husband or my daughter, my mother, or whatever it is, sometimes that it's difficult to feel unity. So v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love the other as yourself, right? This can be very difficult. So how can we cultivate that feeling? I think there's probably many answers. Gigi, I think your finger is pointing.
Yes.
So.
I just want to say that I have come across over the years so many different people from different walks of life, from different experiences, who have come to the same conclusion, and that is to feel life and one's connection to life. Just be conscious of your breathing. Just breathe slowly and breathe deeply, and that's all. Even one breath, but be conscious of it, and that is like the greatest link that you will develop. You're being alive, and that's the essence of everything.
Gigi.
Yes, dear. I'm sorry.
Rabbi Manis Friedman of Chabad, he says it really well. What you're trying to inch towards. He's saying in the past, we thought we have to do this, get a job, this, that, because not to die. Cultivate the field, get up in the morning sun. We have to go and plant the seeds, otherwise there won't be any food, we'll die. And until now, nobody gave a thought to the fact that none of us ever asked to be born. We don't need this. Like, I need this like a hole in the head. But so who needs it?
Who is what?
It's God. God needs it. God needs us to partner with him. That's why he made us.
To partner.
He didn't want to be alone. He wanted to be echad. It wasn't enough for him, just himself, all powerful, all everything. He created us because he wanted to have a relationship. So he made us have all these needs: sleep, eat, water, connection, intimacy. These are all vital, basic needs of human life. And if we just see it that way, that we have no needs. These are all God's needs. He needs us to eat so that we can be of service to the world that he created. So actually, we have no needs. We are needed. So then you'll forget your petty self and all. You'll just look around at every moment of your life thinking, who needs me? What is needed of me at this moment? This garbage has to be, this child has to be taken to the hospital. This person wants to celebrate a big milestone. Without my presence, it would all fall apart because of our close relation. Whatever it is, what is needed of me now? And then you become an instrument of God's will in the world, and you will feel so fulfilled. You don't need to focus on anything but the fact that you have a mission. It's your job to find what that is. Develop the special talent that God gave you and gave you with nobody else, because each one of us has something so unique that nobody else can give. And that's what we're all doing here. Each one of us is giving, without knowing it, just by our presence, something that no one else can give.
Thank you, Sandra. Can I add something, Rabbi? The way you said that they recognize them through Shema Israel. When we were in Baghdad and people were smuggled either through the south to Iran or from the north through the Kurd. In Iran, there were Jewish people waiting with hotel rooms reserved for people who are smuggled from Baghdad, from Iraq, so that they can accommodate them and send them to Israel. So how they wanted to make sure that these people are Jewish, and the same thing, they asked them to recite Shema Israel. And this is how they were sure that they are Jewish. Another thing, I would like to welcome Evelyn Shaheen and Julia Perez. Welcome to our session, everybody. Thank you for coming and enjoy this beautiful information and gathering that we are having today.
Thank you, Sandra and Gladys. So we'll come back to the Shema in a minute, and beautiful wisdom that you're sharing, and history, and so that, and Gigi also mentioning breathing. Yeah, there's a whole science and art of using the breath, and we could also talk at length about that and experience that. I want to share another way, an additional way perhaps, that can help us attain the sense of oneness and unity, and it's one, in some ways we've already been doing this. So this comes from a wonderful book, an amazing book. It's actually one of my new favorite books that I've discovered and that I read in preparation for today, and I can't recommend it highly enough. It's by Rabbi J. Michelson, who is really a brilliant graduate of Yale Law School, and then went on to do a doctorate in Jewish studies at Hebrew University and Jewish mysticism. And he's quite prolific. He had a magazine called Zik magazine. And in 2009, he wrote this book, and I only picked it up just a few months ago. And this is part, actually, what inspired me to offer this session. Really what we've been discussing is a distillation, right? A small part of what he's written in in his book, Everything is God, The Path of Non-Dual Judaism by Rabbi J. Michelson, which is really, he's done an incredible job and brought together a lot, and he brings in also like some of the Eastern traditions and that bear light, that also talk about this concept of oneness. And so one of his responses, he has a number of responses of how to cultivate.
عشان السوم ما قد اسمع منك كل حس بينه عشان نسوي حس.
How to cultivate the sense of oneness. And he has other books about the topic. Here he mentions one vehicle, if you will, one way of creating, of cultivating a sense of feeling together. And many people, I think, feel this way from singing and sometimes Jewish camps or kumsitz or get-togethers. And that's, I think, a big part of how synagogues work, is people singing together. You can call it ecstatic prayer, you can call it singing, if you will, singing with feeling, if you will. Actually, amazingly, let me see, speaking about spontaneity, Einstein has a quote that just popped into my mind. He talks about singing in Yiddish. I don't know if you've ever heard of how he talks. I don't know if I'll find it. So Einstein talks about it somewhere, I can't find the quote right here, but how like the feeling of togetherness when singing Yiddish songs. That's this language that he sang, but he felt a sense of community, of oneness from singing in Yiddish with others. Anyway, so Rabbi J. Michelson writes in his book, ecstatic prayer lowers the barriers of self, like some of these barriers that Einstein was talking about, right? That this strongly individuated ego, some people talk about this sense of self and separateness. So it can kind of lower that barrier and puts the mind into an altered state, like calms the mind, if you will, which, because the egoic self is quieted, often has a quality of union. When that part of ourselves that sees like the separation between us and others is quieted, like here he's talking about in prayer or singing, that can happen, this quality of union, feeling together with oneness that ideally, let's say we experience, can even happen in a synagogue, in let's say Yom Kippur, right, Ne'ilah, after fasting, and everyone's singing together powerfully, like I remember, at the Spanish, everyone's singing, and just a sense of being with one another and a common cause, common purpose, and the music and so on. So it's possible to feel it through this way. And so now we're going to come back to the Shema. So I think it's time for some music again. And I had three, but I think I'm going to go down to two ways of approaching this song. And there's a melody for the Shema, which is by Tzvika Pick. Tzvika Pick, he just passed away, 72 years old, just this past August. So he wrote this following melody for Shema Yisrael. I think some of you know it. We've sung it together before, and I'd invite us to sing it now in a way where we're also trying to cultivate the sense of oneness with one another, with the divine, with the universe, as a kavanah, as an intention. So I'm going to imagine I can hear you. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu
Adonai Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu,
Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And sometimes to go to the ecstatic level, to go to one level higher, at least we have to speed it up a little bit. So we're going to speed it up now that we practiced, and just we can have in mind. Oh, there's so many teachings that there's so many teachings about this. Oh boy, we might get into some of them, and here we go. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Gladys, how much time do we have?
Whatever you like.
Oh boy, oh, don't say that to a rabbi. So, all right. So we started a little bit late, so I think we can go at least another 10 more minutes or so. So if that's okay.
Whatever you like.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. We are enjoying every moment.
I'm so glad, as am I.
Thank you.
So I want to share with you. Actually, I'll share with you a question. When we say these words, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, who are we addressing? Are we addressing anyone?
Yes, the children of Jacob.
Very good. Where do these words come from? And who said them first? I'll share with you at least a rabbinic answer. The rabbinic imagination is found in the Talmud, which is very interesting, which you might not have considered or might not have thought of. So who is the Shema addressing? Yisrael is another name, as we just heard, of Yaakov, of Jacob, right? So let's learn some Talmud together. Don't be scared. We're going to learn here a teaching from Psachim, the Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, right? Not the Jerusalem Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud. Psachim 56a is the page. Let me read it in Hebrew just for fun. De'ama Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. So this is what Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, important sage, about in Genesis, in the book of, see if you can follow me, in the book of Genesis, Bereshit, chapter 49, it says there, Vayikra Yaakov, at the very end of the book, Yaakov gathered all his banav. Vayikra Yaakov el banav. Come gather around me, all my children. He had 12 sons, one daughter. Vayomer, he'asfu v'agida lachem. Come together and I will tell you. And then, as we know, we just had this in Simchat Torah. We will have this coming up soon in the Torah reading cycle, where Yaakov blesses all the children, the 12 tribes, right, and tells them what will happen, so to speak, in the future. So, what is the story? Bikesh Yaakov legalot levanav ketz hayamin. The Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish explains as follows: when Yaakov asked all his children to come around him, he wanted to tell them the future, what's going to happen in the end of days, so it were. He wanted to reveal to them all the secrets, right? Before he died, he wanted to tell them everything. But what happened? According to the story, V'nistalka mimenu Shechina. The Shechina departed from Yaakov. Shekhinah is like the feminine side of God. Yeah, the feminine presence of God, from like the word shachen, It's like the closeness of God, if you will, right? The immanent sense of God disappeared from Yaakov. And he was no longer able to speak, to convey to them what he wanted to convey. So he got worried. He got scared or upset. So when he didn't feel God with him, Yaakov, the Shekhinah with him, he says, what did he say? Yaakov Amar, Shema chas v'shalom yesh b'mitati pesul. Uh-oh, maybe there's someone around me who's pesul, who is not quite up to snuff, as it were, who's there's someone did something wrong around me, something like that, right? Avraham, she'yatza mimenu Ishmael, like Avraham had Ishmael come from him, who wasn't always so great. Ve'avi Yitzchak, like my father Yitzchak, she'yatza mimenu Esav, who Esav came from Yitzchak, right? So wasn't also always so great, Esav. So Yaakov is worried. Maybe one of his children, there's something wrong, did something wrong, or is going to be like Ishmael or like Esav. So he said that. And so Amru lo vanav, according to Rav Shimon ben Lakish, Resh Lakish as he's sometimes called, his children said to him, Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Not with that melody, of course. That's an Ashkenazi 20th century melody that some of us know. But they said to him, Shema. They recited the Shema, this verse from Deuteronomy, which says, as we know, God is one. So, and then they said to him, Amru, Keshem she'en belibcha ela echad, kach en belibenu ela echad. Just as in your heart mind, there's only one, there's only oneness, the same is in our lev, in our heart, there's also this oneness. So you don't have to worry, we're not idolaters, God forbid, or whatever it is. It's just we see and we experience, as we're talking in our language, we're seeing it all as one. Be'ota sha'ah, at that hour, patach Yaakov Avinu v'amar, then Yaakov was able to say, after he heard his children recite the Shema, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Through time and space, your glory shines, O God. Or as they say here, blessed be the name of God's glorious kingdom forever and ever. That's the statement that's said typically after the Shema is recited. And so that's a midrash. This is a story in the Talmud about the children of Yaakov reciting the Shema and saying they're united with him. So when we're talking about oneness, there's also this intergenerational oneness, right? Not only horizontal, but also we're one with also all the beings that came before us and will come after us. There's certain interconnectivity that we're also talking about here. So it was like they were saying the statement to assure their dad, their father, Yaakov, we got the message, this message of oneness. Okay. So,
Thank you, Rabbi.
no problem. I have an exercise that I'm going to be a little bit daring. This is another wonderful approach to the Shema that I'd like to share with you. This is probably one of our last things that we do together today, just a few minutes. But this is a deeper understanding of the Shema, not through text, but experientially. There's an amazing rabbi in the United States who is deaf, or legally deaf, and his name is Rabbi Darby Jared Lay, and he uses sign language to say the Shema, and I've shared this with some of my students. And what's amazing, I find, is that it's also impacted my understanding and my experience of reciting the Shema. So I'm going to invite you to share, I'm going to invite you to participate and learn from Rabbi Darby. Let me show you, here he is, over here. So he's going to teach us how to recite the Shema. Just give me one moment to set it up. I don't think I've shared this with you before, right? I don't think so. So, all right. So see, if I think you'll be able to follow, and allow yourself to, even if you think, whatever, it just might be a little bit silly or whatever. I invite you to, join Rabbi Darby and see if you can do it together with him. So I have to share the right screen now. So wonderful. For the first time, I have 3 screens now that I'm working with here, not just 2. So I'm finding it just so much better. It's awesome to have 3 screens, by the way. And so, Shechianu, this is the first time that I'm doing that. Okay, so now you can see Rabbi Darby here in big, right? I just want to make sure that I've also shared the sound. I might not have shared the sound. Yeah, okay, I shared the sound. So here he is. It's just 3 minutes long. And we're all together going to recite the Shema in the American Sign Language way. Here we go.
There's no sound.
Oh, there's no sound? I was wondering about that because I can't hear it either. Uh-oh. Oh, thank you. I had the mute on for some reason. Thank you, Albert. Let's try that again.
When I translate the Shema, I want to think about what each word of the prayer means. So the first word
You can hear him now, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Shema, which means listen or hear. But as a deaf person, I don't feel comfortable. It doesn't make sense to sign Shema as related to the ears. And the real meaning of the prayer, in my opinion, is to pay attention. So I've signed Shema as pay attention. Shema. Second word, Yisrael. But this sign alone isn't enough because this is the sign for Israel, the place. And the Shema is talking to Israel, the people. So I've added to Israel the gathering of all the people before me. Shema Yisrael. The third word is Adonai, which we understand, we interpret as God. And I've translated Adonai as God, an expansive perception of God. The next word is Eloheinu, our God. So since I just finished signing Adonai, I bring my hand down to my chest and sign ours, meaning Adonai Eloheinu. The next word is Adonai again. And the last word is Echad, which means one. Rather than just sign one, for a more spiritual interpretation, I like to show many and then change it into one. Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
This audiobook about vagus nerve exercises made over 600 sales on Audible last month. And the guy who owns it, his name is...
Okay, Rabbi, I think we can stop here.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
So, okay. So, thank you. Okay, great. So, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the great session. You brought us together to listen to you and to enjoy your session. And with this Shema that you recited to us during the session, compensates for me for something. When we did the ladies' bat mitzvah, I had your recording in my car and I enjoyed it. And somehow it disappeared. And today I listened to you singing Shema and I enjoyed it. And I assume everybody enjoyed the session. It was a great variety and it was a good opportunity to be together. And I thank Xenia so much. You did a great job. Without you, you wouldn't be able to get together. And thank you, Rabbi, for recommending her to us. Thank you all for coming, and I wish everybody to be in good health, and we can do many, many more sessions together.
Rabbi, I want to just say that I have one of your pasuk pics on my wall at work. It says, I will walk with simplicity. Ve'ani betumi elech. It's Psalm 26:11.
I would like to explain. I sent you recently the posters for the 6 sessions, the beautiful one that Sandra did. At the end of it, there were 2 posters, one for Schachar, that Rabbi Orenstein created the program for us, and I recorded everything, and Sandra did it so nicely in a poster. Please have a look at it. And the other one is our bat mitzvah, ladies bat mitzvah, which my son did it simplified it in 10 minutes. And I was always after Sandra to put everything together. And she did a great, great job. If you look at it, please have a look at it.
Thank you, Sandra. Hi,
welcome.
Evelyn.
Happy
It's good
birthday.
to see you, Evelyn.
Albert is
And
right.
hi,
Happy
Vivi.
birthday, Rabbi.
Hi, Rose. Hi, Irina.
It
Hi,
has,
Amy.
it
Hi,
has,
Gigi.
it has a
Hi,
history
André.
Bonjour.
of our programs.
À la semaine prochaine.
Hi, Maurice. And it has pasuk, the one that Rabbi Orenstein and Sandra are talking about it. Please have a look. And it is beautiful. It's from the Tehillim, and each pasuk is done so artistically by Rabbi Orenstein. It has about 200 pasuk, he put it, each one so beautifully and so artistic. Please have a look. It is included with the ladies' bat mitzvah that Sandra did everything together. It's something that we would like to keep. And Rabbi Orenstein put it also in our website. You know, we have 2 websites, one from the synagogue that I always send you, and one Rabbi Orenstein did for us. It has all our history with Rabbi Orenstein, all the programs, our pictures, our videos, and everything. So please have a look. You will enjoy seeing whatever we did during these years. Thank you all. Thank you, Rabbi
I
Orenstein.
want you to say something. Is there still time? Or
Yes, Gigi,
yes?
come on, say it.
Okay, so Rabbi Orenstein, are you still there?
Yes, he is.
He is, okay. I just think that it is very interesting that science can find the Jewish concept of God compatible with itself, with science. But the Jewish concept of God is so, it's sort of an abstraction, and it's so difficult for most people to comprehend, to get into it. They want something, you know, like concrete father figure or something like this. And it's also interesting, I just came across recently a Roman Catholic medieval priest who eventually came to understand God in exactly that Jewish way of the oneness of existence. So it's really phenomenal. It's very complex, very sophisticated. Can you imagine this biblical times, this concept existed already among the Jewish people? And I think if people can come to that great understanding, I think there will be peace and unity. If we don't blow ourselves up beforehand, there'll be peace, love, unity, and all the
Gigi,
rest.
someone asked a rabbi, I think you know which one it is. It was a priest. He said, do you believe in Jesus? And then the rabbi answered, I'm not looking for a God that can serve me.
I can't hear you well. I can't hear you. What? I'm not looking for
a God that can serve me. I'm looking for a God whom I can serve. And the guy says, I never thought of it that way. And
Manus Friedman.
The priest started crying. He never thought of it's like someone is being sacrificed like an animal sacrifice to save us. But human sacrifice is forbidden in Judaism.
Yeah.
And so he's saving us. But I'm not looking for it to be, I'm searching for him who I can serve.
Thank you, Sandra. That's a very, very nice point. I would like to remind everybody that next week we are having Maurice Perez leading us to dance, and he is here with us now. Please come, all of you. It will be something different that he will teach us, a big variety of dance, and we need to move a little bit and to have fun. Maurice is here with us today. So welcome, Maurice, and I would like, please, all of you to come and get your friends, get your family to dance in your own living room.
Gladys, even the Spanish and Portuguese is watching us, watching your program. That's wonderful.
Yes, I know Françoise is watching us.
Just left. Rabbi Schachar, thank you very much. And above all, we should also thank Gladys for organizing this amazing session and the whole program. Thank you, Gladys.
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Orenstein. Thank you.
Rabbi Orenstein, who created for us all the beautiful programs. He created the Schachar, he created Women Learning Group, he created the Ladies Bat Mitzvah, and we still, after all those years, we still maintain everything you did for us, Rabbi. Thank you. We can never thank you enough. And he's still maintaining the main part of our program. Without Rabbi Orenstein, I cannot do it alone. He always give us nice session and we always enjoy. Thank you all for coming.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Shavua Tov leKulam. Bye.
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you, Rabbi Orenstein.
Thank you, Rabbi Orenstein. Happy birthday.
Oh,